point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 633rd edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and the astonishing Nancy Wolf.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
This show is being recorded on the 24th of July. The dates of the articles that we're going to be dealing with will be from the 17th of July, which is a Thursday, to the 23rd of July, which is yesterday, Wednesday. These articles are all regular news articles that have been posted at my blog, geoharvey.com. You can go to geoharvey.com, geoharvey.com, and click on the date on the calendar, and you'll have 15 shows to pick from to find the one that you want, if you want to read the original of one of these things. Or you can go to whatever it is that's attached.
Yeah.
It'll be tiny URL, Energy Week 633, and that's going to be someplace you could scroll to. I don't know where. Maybe down, maybe that way, maybe
Or this way.
Yeah, who knows? Anyway,
Yeah.
you all set?
Yeah, all
we
set.
would get into it.
Yeah, let's
okay.
get into it.
We have a picture of a substation on a barge. This is a small substation. I think it's only about, 4 or 5 or 6 stories tall. And I've seen them look like they were easily 6 times that size. This article is from Renews.
Yeah, so the headline here is ONP and SEMCO forge floating wind partnership.
ONP Management and SEMCO Maritime signed this is a memorandum of understanding. I keep feeling like saying moratorium of understanding.
Move.
This is a memorandum of understanding to collaborate on floating offshore wind sector. The company said that the partnership will focus on engineering and consultancy services to support the development of floating offshore wind projects globally, and long words.
Long words.
Many long words. One of the horrible things about news press releases is that they use lots of long words.
Yes.
And they don't need to.
No, they don't. They want to show that they can use them.
Yes, and this particular article is not all that bad, but they do get bad. So have you got anything to say about that?
Just cool. Thumbs
Cool,
up.
thumbs up. Okay, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Our next item, also from Renews.
So the headline here is SPR starts EA3 cable installation.
That's easy to understand.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It makes total sense.
SPR is Scottish Power Renewables. Scottish Power Renewables started pulling the first section of export cable at Bawdsey in Suffolk for its £4 billion East Anglia 3 offshore wind farm. £4 billion is a lot of money.
Yeah.
It is another milestone for the project. Scottish Power says the cables will carry 1.4 gigawatts of power, 147 kilometers, which is 91 miles, from the project's offshore substation to landfall. So what we just saw, that substation, it's going to be a bigger substation than that, I'm sure. But it's what they're talking about is the cable that goes from that substation to landfall, where it is then distributed to the grid. And of course, the substation has cables from all sorts of wind turbines feeding into it. And these things are just getting bigger and bigger. When I first started doing this show, offshore wind power was practically non-existent, and what wind turbines were going up were very often 2.5 megawatts or so. They've got 15 megawatt turbines are going in that regularly now all over the world. And they've got really big ones. So, okay.
Yeah.
You have more on that?
I do not.
Okay, our next item here is a picture of a Ford Mustang Mach-E rally, and the article's from Clean Technica.
Yeah, the headline here is Ford plans to bring affordable EVs to market.
Believe it or not, Bloomberg Green hosted a conference in Seattle where a Ford spokesman told the audience the least expensive EV the company offers, which is the Ford Mustang Mach-E. There are not a lot of models yet, but sells for as little as $37,995. Is Ford trying to pull a fast one by including the soon-to-disappear $7,500 federal tax credit? No, it's not. That's the actual price. So if you got one of those cars between now and the end of the tax credit, and I don't remember when the end of the tax credit is, but I think it might be September. I mean, the Trump administration is trying to get rid of as much of this as possible. But if you got it soon enough to include the tax credit, it would be $30,495. That's not a lot of money for a new car. Of course, the car would not be the rally car shown. That's more expensive. So we're up to Friday, July 18th, and we have a picture of a Vestas turbine.
Yeah, so the headline here is Vestas secures 527 megawatt U.S. order.
Yeah, this is from Renews. By the way, Renews is Renewable Energy News, but they change the way that they spell it out, and I've been putting up articles from them for over a decade now, and Renews is what they always fall back on. Right now, if you see them, it's going to be Renewable Energy News if you do a Google search or something. Vestas has secured a 527 megawatt turbine supply order with an undisclosed customer in the United States. It's like this is being done in secret,
yes,
but it's got to be done in front of everybody in secret. So we're going to tell you we're doing it, but we're not going to tell you how or with whom or where.
Yeah.
The Danish OEM will provide its V150-4.5 MW. That means this thing has got a swept area of 150 meters, and it's going to be 4.5 megawatts. This model to delivery. Delivery of the hardware is scheduled to commence in the second quarter of 2026. Commissioning is planned for the final quarter of that year. And this kind of tells you how fast renewable energy can be installed. It's really kind of stunning when you understand it. Okay, should we go on?
Yeah, let's go on.
We're ahead of schedule here, so we can talk more. We've got an item from Renews and a picture from Empire Wind. This is a rendering, obviously.
Yeah, so the headline here is New York halts offshore wind grid plan.
The New York State Public Service Commission has terminated its offshore wind transmission planning process to protect ratepayers amid stalled federal permitting. The commission said the decision will position New York for faster offshore wind growth once federal policies improve. Yeah, I've got a thought about these federal policies and so forth, and I keep seeing things about the price of oil and stuff, and I think the price of oil is being held artificially low.
Yes.
And the reason is because if it's allowed to go to what the market would bear, which you would think that all these small countries that pump oil would really like, they would make more money, but people would switch to alternate energy quicker. So what they want to do is keep the price of oil and gas low, so people will not switch. Also keep them steady, so people will not switch.
Right.
And then, when they know that that's not going to work anymore, they'll just let it go. Which means that you could see the price of gasoline double overnight. You know. And
but what you're saying about once you're consistent on something, even if you're doing that for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But that consistency makes people rely on it.
That's
once
right.
they realize, once they see a pattern is happening, they're detecting that pattern, they're, oh, well, this is the pattern. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And they forget that the pattern, the long-term pattern that we've seen over and over again in the past is for the market just to go crazy at some point. And I remember telling people in early 1972 or 73, whatever it was, the cost of oil by Christmas the cost of gasoline is going to go to $1 a gallon. And they were saying, you're never going to see gasoline cost $1 a gallon. They believed it was just not possible. And when they asked me why I thought the price of gasoline was going to go up, and of course this was the spring before the gas crisis, and I said, because we just had a blizzard in Iowa, and a city that has no rail connections was completely cut off, and every single company selling retail or wholesale fuel oil ran out all at once, and people could not get oil, period. And I said, what that indicates is that all of the oil companies made the same decision at the same time. They made that decision based on understanding that the public didn't have.
Yep.
And that understanding was that their inventories were very low. So they needed to get switched to gasoline for the summer, and people just couldn't understand why I would be predicting that the cost of oil gasoline, whatever, would suddenly go up, but it did. And then I don't know what they said after that.
I'm going to quote a newspaper owner.
Yeah.
Who would call those folks rapacious capitalists. That's how he referred. Anyway, someone I interviewed one time, he would refer to those folks.
Yeah.
Because he was running a newspaper, one of the last metro dailies that was not owned by the big 5 or 6 companies, that was family owned, and they used to be so everywhere. But he was constantly defending that sort of independent journalism, and just that.
Well,
that's what he would testify about.
Independent journalism has reappeared online, and you can, people have got channels, and they may be channels that tell the truth or lie or anything in between.
Anything, yeah, absolutely.
But, okay.
Yeah.
We have a picture of a Ford Bronco.
Ooh.
And I want you to notice that where the license plate is a white thing that's covered with 7 Chinese characters.
Yes. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is from Clean Technica, and this headline is "Electric Ford Bronco Coming, but Not for You."
Why is that? Ford has just unveiled a fully electric Bronco and an EREV, which is an extended range electric vehicle version of the Bronco. If you haven't seen the exciting news and marketing around that, it might be because these versions of the Bronco are not for Ford's home market in the United States. They are for customers in China. China has got a market that is just incredibly big, and we'll get to that when we get to the last.
Yeah, but also the Ford Bronco. I mean, that's so ridiculous when you think about it. The Ford Bronco is not being marketed to Americans, and that's wow.
It will happen. They will, but I think it's cheaper to bring these vehicles to market in China.
Yes, because that's a market they can work through anything with that because they know that there's a market.
Yes, that's right, and they don't have to work with American regulations, so it's easier to bring it to market and then fit it with.
It's interesting that you're saying American regulations because supposedly this president is trying to remove regulations, but he's actually adding all these new regulations that make it make it harder for businesses.
Yes,
which is just
ironic. I think I wouldn't have used the word ironic.
Yeah,
I agree it is ironic, but I would have used a different word.
Okay.
Okay. Our next item, we're up to Saturday, July 19th, and our next item, we have a picture of a wind farm, and that is an EDF wind farm.
Yeah, so this is from Renews, and the headline here is EDF bags consent for a 50 megawatt Irish wind farm.
EDF Renewables, Ireland, that is to say, EDF Renewables, the Irish branch of it, was given the go-ahead to build a 50 megawatt wind farm on land in County Clare. The Bacharach wind farm was granted planning permission. Oh man, I can't pronounce it. If it were Welsh, it would be easy. But Irish is like Welsh, a rational pronunciation of the words, but I don't happen to know. It's
also very popular on Duolingo. People learn Irish.
Yeah. Really? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That's a language you can learn on there.
Yeah. Ireland's national independent planning body. It is expected to be operational in 2030. So that's kind of poking along, really. They're taking their time putting it up. It's 50 megawatts. I don't see here how many wind turbines will be involved. However, let's go ahead.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
We've got an item here from Clean Technica and a rendering of a bullet train in California.
So the headline here is support for California high-speed rail is surging along with the state's ability to finish the project.
A poll from Political California and UC Berkeley's Citrin Center for Public Opinion Research shows 67% of registered California voters support the continued construction of a bullet train projected connecting Los Angeles and San Francisco. This train, by the way, is shown here in the Central Valley. And if you go from Los Angeles to San Francisco, the way they do it is they cross the mountains from Los Angeles and get into the Central Valley, and then they can move.
Yep.
Really fast.
And that's that's agricultural land, and that's I've been out there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever taken the Acela to Washington, D.C. from Brattleboro?
No, I have not.
Well, I used to live in Winchester, which is 7 miles away, but I was working in Washington, D.C.
Oh.
And I would commute down, stay there for a month, and come back for a weekend. And of course, I was staying in a very cheap hotel and not having to pay for it myself. But nonetheless, except for 1 month when I was staying with my daughter in Crystal City. That was an apartment we had, which was quite lovely, except that it smelled like chlorine for a swimming pool. I remember going down, and the train was like slow, going down to Amherst, Massachusetts, or thereabouts, and then it would be faster going down to, I guess, New Haven, and then it would be faster going to New York, and then we'd sit in the station in New York, and then from there to Washington, D.C., that train would just fly. And I remember a conductor walking by, and I stopped him and I said, "How fast are we going?" And he said, "Oh, pretty fast." And I said, I'll bet we're going over 100 miles an hour. And he said, why do you say that? And I said, because that highway over there has got to have a speed limit of at least 65 miles an hour, which means that the cars are mostly going 75 miles an hour, and we are flying by them.
Yep.
And, you know, it's good. I mean, this is a safe way to travel fast.
It just got to be more. That's why I never took the Acela train. It was never, because I used to go between New York and DC all the time.
Yeah.
But the Acela was like, yeah.
The wrong time?
No, the price-wise.
Oh, price-wise. Yeah, well.
But that's because that's like, it is, for some reason, that line, the New York to DC part of that it's like $90 just without the speedy one, without the speedy train, just on its own. It's like, it always feels like a crime every time I would think about taking that train.
I'll tell you, for $90, I would take the train if I had a car. Yeah. And in those days when I was going down by train, I did have a car. And I wouldn't drive it to Washington. You see, the problem is I would be there for a month. What do you do with a car in Washington, D.C. for a month?
You go somewhere else. That's what you do. You leave. That's what you do with a car there. You leave.
Okay. Okay. Let's continue here for a moment.
Yeah.
This is a picture of the dates for the tipping points for cars, and this is going to have to be explained. This article is from Clean Technica.
Yeah. So the headline here is Recurrent sees gas car tipping point soon, despite new tariffs.
Recurrent CEO Scott Case posted, quote, "It turns out that when a state approaches 30% of new cars as EV sales, that's the tipping point for the number of gas cars on the road falling. It's a little counterintuitive that it's not 50% when that happens. The reason it happens that way is all of these new electric vehicles that are coming in are displacing gas cars. So the gas cars are leaving.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are being replaced with electric vehicles. And when that happens at 30%, you get the tipping point. Well, this year is expected to be the tipping point in California with, let's see, put that back up.
Yeah.
Washington State, Colorado, I think New Jersey being next year, the year after that, 2 years from now. It'll be Massachusetts and
Maryland too. Yeah, Maryland's in there.
A bunch of places, Oregon, and again, one of the things that I expect is that nationally, at some point, the cost of gasoline is just going to go up, and I've been looking at this every way I possibly can, and what I'm seeing is that as we get into a point where gasoline is no longer in demand, the price will go up.
Yes.
It will not go down the way economists, with a falling demand, you have falling prices. No, that's not what's going to happen, because there's a huge amount of infrastructure that has to be supported by the gas. And supporting that with lower sales means higher prices. So there you go. We're up to Sunday, June 20th. Mm-hmm. And we have a picture of a kittiwake.
Yeah. So this is from ABC News, and the headline is Arctic birders combat impact of climate change and avian flu on delicate ecosystem.
How did this article get in here? Well, it's because kittiwakes are in trouble, and they're in trouble because of climate change. A population of kittiwakes is down 80% since the 1990s along the Norwegian coast. The small seagull, a kittiwake is a small there's more than one species of seagull. The small seagull species is under siege from climate change, predation, local fisheries, and bird flu. So the people of Vardø, a town on the remote Vardøya island, sorry, I don't speak Norwegian either,
It's pretty good, I think.
are helping out. And I think this was the article where a guy had got a whole bunch of boxes and he just stacked them on top of each other and made basically a huge wall out of wooden boxes. And these seagulls just moved in. They built their nests in those boxes. So he was able to address predation to a certain extent, bird flu, but that's what it is. Okay, our next item, we have a Desiree solar plant in New Mexico from somebody who doesn't know how to hold a camera steady, I think.
Yeah.
And this is from Clean Technica.
Headline here is new 150 megawatt solar power plant green lighted for New Mexico.
The 150 megawatt Santa Teresa solar power plant is slated for construction in Doña Ana County, New Mexico. I don't know where Doña Ana County is, to tell you the truth, but it's in eastern New Mexico because they're selling some of this power to Texas. The plant is especially interesting as one more demonstration that the solar industry can deliver more clean kilowatts more quickly than any other energy resource. We will get more on that. This is going to be fun.
It's fun. Okay. Yes.
Okay, we have an article from the BBC on lithium.
Yeah, this one's interesting. The headline here is the rise of green tech is feeding another environmental crisis.
As the world transitions to more renewable energy sources, the demand for lithium soars. In 2021, about 95,000 tons of lithium were consumed globally. I have no idea who was eating it, but by 2024, the demand had risen to 205,000 tons. The International Energy Agency says there are environmental costs associated with extracting that much lithium. I don't agree. And part of the reason I don't agree is because lithium can be extracted directly from seawater. It's just a matter of how much do you pay for it. The other thing is lithium. We've got lots of ways of making batteries that don't involve lithium. There are companies that are producing flow batteries that will fit in cars and trucks. They're big, but they will fit in. And you know, for the battery farms that are made on Tesla Power Walls, you know, just using them over and over again, we don't need lithium for those either. We've got other sources. Iron air batteries are kind of amazing. It's just rust and air. This sounds like it's pretty easy to get.
Rust and air.
Rust and air, yeah.
They come with many cars.
When iron rusts, you can extract electricity from that process. If you feed electricity in, you can unrust it. And there's a company in Massachusetts called Form Energy, and they're actually building big batteries for this. It won't go into a car because the battery is very big, physically big. But they've got, I forget how many contracts that I've seen go by for 10 megawatt wind battery farms and things like that. And they're expecting that the cost of storing electricity in one of these big batteries will be 0.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which is by 2030. That's really cheap, you know. Okay. Yes. Now, we have a picture of Kashmir.
Yeah.
And if I showed you that and said that it was someplace out west, you might believe me.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is from the BBC, and the headline here is Kashmir's growing heat crisis hits health and harvests.
An intense heat wave has gripped Kashmir, a picturesque Himalayan region dotted with glaciers and known for its cool climate. As the heat wave went to record-breaking levels this month, the region saw its highest daytime temperature in 70 years at 37.4 degrees Celsius, which is 99.32 degrees Fahrenheit, at least 7 degrees Celsius above the seasonal average. There are people who in Brattleboro who came from Kashmir, and I talked to them one very cold day and said, how do you feel about, coming to Brattleboro where it's so cold in the winter? And they said, Kashmir is not warm.
Not all of India is one climate, basically.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And we might mention also that Kashmir is an area in dispute.
Yes.
Between India and Pakistan, and I can go into the reasons for that, but not for this show.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a wind farm.
We do have a wind farm, and this is for an article from Renews, and the headline here is India adds record 22 gigawatts of renewable capacity.
According to Rystad Energy, India added 22 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity in the first half of 2025. So that would mean something like 44 gigawatts this year. And by the way, China is a lot faster. But it is still relying too heavily on fossil fuels. The record amount added was a 57% jump from the 14.2 gigawatts installed during the first half of 2024. The new capacity includes 18.4 gigawatts of solar and 3.5 gigawatts of wind power. So, yeah. And so I should explain again, the capacity is subject to a capacity factor. And the capacity factor, basically, if you have solar panels, the sun isn't going to be shining. It might shine 8 hours a day, so that's a third. And if you're lucky, you would get a third of the name. You'd get 8 hours of nameplate capacity per day. But it won't be 8 hours because you don't get great sunshine like 8 hours a day in many places. So in Vermont it might be, 4 hours. It's very low capacity factor. It might be 0.18 or 18%. So you take the nameplate capacity and you multiply that by 0.18 and you extrapolate that over 24 hours, and that's the amount that you expect to get. With wind power, it's a very much higher figure. Offshore wind, it's very much higher, and offshore wind sometimes has a capacity factor higher than coal. And nuclear power, by comparison, has a capacity factor in the United States of over 90%. So what that means is that a 1,000 megawatt coal plant might produce an average of 900 megawatts, where a 1,000 megawatt solar plant might produce an average of 180 megawatts. Doesn't mean nuclear is better.
Yep.
It just means that it's
other.
That's a good term. The problem with nuclear energy, and I explain this to people and they don't understand, a lot of people don't understand, is that historically, I should say a problem, because there's lots of problems, it is baseload power. And the problem with baseload power is that it must, by its nature, run 100% of the time, 100% of the time. And you would think that's good, but it isn't. It's good if you want to keep the price of power down. But in order to do that, you've got to build the plants that are baseload plants so that they only supply enough power to provide the minimum amount demanded by the grid. Not the maximum, the minimum. Because anything more than that means that at some point they're going to be running power into the grid that has no place to go.
Yeah.
And when that happens, things fry.
Yes.
So when Vermont Yankee was built, and I was around when this happened, when Vermont Yankee was built, somebody says, where is this electricity going to go? they regarded this as not a difficult problem because they could provide a place for the power to go. And so we have the Northfield Mountain pumped storage power plant, which is still in operation. And when Vermont Yankee didn't have customers to supply out there on the grid, their power was redirected to Northfield Mountain, which would just consume it. And of course, this happened at night. And then during the daytime, Northfield Mountain would provide its power to the grid because Vermont Yankee was not big enough to provide all the power to the grid. It couldn't be big enough to provide all the power to the grid in the middle of the day, because if it were, it wouldn't have anywhere to put the power at night. This is a well-known problem with baseload power, very well known, and people who are advocates of baseload power act like it doesn't exist. And baseload power is just as dependent on power backup as solar or wind. So the difference is, if the backup power is full, then you what is the word? You shut off the power. There's a word. You shut off the wind farm or the solar farm, because they can be shut down and turned on really fast.
Yeah.
Which nuclear can't.
Right.
I keep track of all the nuclear plants in the United States on a daily basis. When a nuclear plant goes down for refueling, which means it goes cold, bringing it back to full load can take well over a week, and sometimes it can take over 2 weeks. So we should go on.
Yeah, let's go on.
And we have a picture of two ships side by side, and this is from Renews.
Yeah. So the headline here is Van Ord orders new vessels for offshore wind fleet.
Yeah, this is interesting, and there's a reason why I wanted to show people this picture. Van Ord has ordered 2 new subsea rock installation vessels in a bid to meet rising global demand for infrastructure for offshore wind energy protection. Offshore energy protection is what this is for. Subsea rock installation is vital I'm stumbling over these words. For protecting and stabilizing offshore wind assets such as cables, pipelines, and wind farm foundations. Now, pipelines means if you're going to get oil and pump it to shore, actually, if you're going to get oil from offshore, you've got to protect it, just like you protect wind turbines. And what these ships are designed for is to move rocks around on the seafloor. So this is just one more aspect of these things that we have to pay attention to. Okay, next we have an item from PV Magazine International and a picture of a solar farm, and I could guess that that's Chinese.
Korea? No.
It doesn't look like Korean to me, and it could be Japanese.
Could be Japanese. I don't think it's Chinese.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Well,
but I am also not an expert on this, so this is not my my area of expertise.
When you have any amount of Japanese, I can spot it, because they have those they have syllabaries that they use, and the characters in the syllabaries are distinctive, and I can see that. And there's something like that going on in Korean. It doesn't go on in Chinese, but the thing is, in a short piece of writing, Japanese, you might just have the whole thing covered by Chinese, and a educated Japanese person can read Chinese even though he doesn't speak Chinese, he or she.
So the
PV Magazine International.
Yeah. So the headline here is negative price hours rise in Europe.
Around 28% of the potential solar power generation in Germany occurred during periods of negative electricity prices from January to May, according to Enervis. The share is expected to continue to rise as battery storage deployment keeps lagging behind renewable energy growth. Now, the reason they're going into negative energy prices is because the solar power is producing electricity, or the wind power is producing electricity, and it's making more than they need. So they've got to curtail something. Curtail is the word I was looking for. They've got to curtail something. And the way they do that is by allowing the price to go negative, which means that power companies have to pay money to put electricity onto the grid. And there's a utility, I think it's called Encore in Texas. It supplies Dallas, I believe, maybe Houston. But they had a plan for homeowners and so forth to buy power, in which you would pay for the power during the daytime, when demand during the daytime, but during the period from 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. you could take as much electricity off the grid as you wanted for free. And that meant if you had batteries, you could charge them, and then you could run your household on batteries for the rest of the time. And they actually did that because of this negative power thing. They wanted to get rid of electricity at night. That's how they did it. Should we go on? Yes,
yeah,
we
let's
should.
go on. Yeah.
The next thing that we have is a picture of the Sizewell C nuclear reactors. There are actually 3 reactors here. The one in the upper right-hand corner is Sizewell B, but Sizewell C are the 2 in the middle. This is from MSN.
Oh, yes, of course. UK, it's interesting. Anyway, the headline here is UK gives final go-ahead to 38 billion pound nuclear plant.
Now, just think about this for a minute. Let me read this. The government of the UK has given the final go-ahead for a 38 billion pound, that is $51.2 billion, nuclear power plant in Suffolk. Suffolk, by the way, is north of London and to the east. The Sizewell C project will be jointly funded by Canadian pension fund La Caisse, UK energy firm Centrica, and Amber Infrastructure. And it was not funded by me. If I had the money, I wouldn't put it into that. It will deliver enough electricity for 6 million homes, while solar drives the price negative. Is this a good idea? How are they going to pay for this if solar is driving the price negative?
And the thing that's sticking out to me, of course,
Yes.
is the pension fund. Because that's where you hide, that's where you hide money. That's literally where you hide money. That's where you hide money. That's where you hide things, is in pension funds. That's a known thing with watchdog journalism. It's the pension funds. It's the weird, tiny, strange thing that we give all of our money to. So much money goes into these pension funds, and we have no idea what's inside them. And so when I see this pension fund is funding a nuclear plant, that's a little bit weird.
But the thing that bothers me about this is, literally, when I read this and the story that immediately preceded it in this show, I realized it is not possible to have nuclear and solar working on the same grid, because the solar will just gobble up the nuclear. It'll drive it out of business. By the time Sizewell C is finished, which will probably be, I don't know, 25 2035 at the earliest,
Yeah.
I would guess. The price of solar power is going to be so low that they are going to be unable to turn the thing on. It's mind-boggling how crazy this is.
That's why I say I think that the fact that a pension fund is funding this makes me wonder what it makes me think there's something because if you're putting public money, that's like you're thinking those are that's where you hide weird stuff.
Yeah, and this is weird. And the thing is, okay, let's make the solar not go negative by putting the batteries on the grid, which will cost half a cent per kilowatt hour to store the electricity. That means that 2035, the cost of electricity from solar plus the cost of storing it in a near firm situation where it is as reliable as nuclear power, because the sun always shines, and when you've got a battery, the sun is always shining. And what is this going to do? It's going to produce electricity that costs 2 cents per kilowatt hour. And that plant is going to produce electricity that costs 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Which would you like to pay for?
Part of me now is thinking that it's very much a decision. That's a decision. To fund it, that is a very big decision, not necessarily an economic or societal decision, but it's a very specific choice. I guess
yes,
choice is the word I'm looking for.
There are reasons why people want nuclear power plants that have nothing to do with the cost of the electricity they produce.
Of it,
or the efficiency. Actually, a nuclear power plant, I would maintain, has got terrible efficiency.
Yeah.
But why would you want a nuclear plant? Well, because you want nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Really, that's the big reason.
Yep.
Now, there are other reasons that don't involve nuclear bombs, like
AI.
No, AI, you're back to the thing of electricity.
Yeah.
It's going to be cheaper to do AI with, but because you need medical isotopes, but they don't have to come out of a big reactor. They can come out of a small reactor. And small modular reactors are not going to improve the situation. Okay, let's go on.
Yeah.
I know that you and I don't argue on this, but we could argue with whoever is out there.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, this is from the BBC, and we have a picture here of Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon. And I got to tell you about this canyon, but go ahead.
Yeah, so the headline here is China begins building world's largest dam, fueling fears in India.
China is building what will be the world's largest hydropower dam in the world. Really? How big is it? I'll get to that. The project in Tibetan territory has India and Bangladesh concerned, I think more than concerned. It is criticized for its potential to impact millions of Indians and Bangladeshis living downriver. The local Tibetans, who are going to have to move out of their territory, and by the way, there's not a lot of people living in this territory, and the environment. Well, why is it? How is it going to impact these people? Well, environmental impact, other impact. What happens if this dam fails? You're going to have a flood in Bangladesh that's going to make all other floods in Bangladesh look like child's play, and I can tell you, I can remember when 250,000 people died in a flood in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
And India, and of course it means that if that happened, China would have a chokehold on the Indian economy. This article makes that clear. How big is the dam? Believe it or not, 70, that is 70 gigawatts. This is astonishing. 70 gigawatts, that is the equivalent of 70 large nuclear power plants. And it's going to be better power, I think, than nuclear power, because it's something that you can regulate more easily. It does have a little bit of a downside, which is that, people have to move out, birds have to move out, snakes have to move out, ants have to move out, whatever you've got has to move out. And if that dam fails, it's going to kill a lot of people.
Yeah.
The Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Dam is Grand Canyon is 314 miles long. Compare that with the U.S. Grand Canyon, which is 277. So this is longer by 35 miles than the Grand Canyon. But here's the other thing. The Grand Canyon in the United States at its deepest point is 6,093 feet deep. This canyon, Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon, is 19,000 feet deep.
That's deeper. It's a lot deeper.
Well, it's hard to get a picture of the Yarlung Tsangpo Grand Canyon that is better than this, because this picture is kind of like what you get. But I have seen occasionally, and unfortunately I couldn't use them because they're copyrighted, pictures of this canyon that are just astonishing. Now the Grand Canyon is wider. Grand Canyon is, up to like 18 miles across, but this is a big canyon. Okay, yeah. I'm going to go on.
Yeah.
We've got we have a picture of a solar array and an article from PV Magazine USA.
Yeah, so the headline here is Solar, Wind, and Storage Reliably Power Texas Grid During Unexpected Coal Shutdown.
This is an interesting thing because the Texas people have been complaining about renewable energy for a long time.
Just destroying everything, right?
They're trying to stop it.
Yeah.
Solar and wind generated 40.2% of the ERCOT grid's electricity this year through June. When coal plants shut down for unexpected maintenance, solar and wind provided about 50% of the generation during peak summer demand in that state. The air conditioners stayed on because they had renewable energy.
Yep.
How do you argue with this? They're still arguing with it. Governor Abbott is still against it, as far as I can determine. But how do you do that?
Political. That you just have your you just bury your head in the sand and say, I'm making this decision. And I don't care what the consequences are, because I'm making this decision.
I think that what they're actually doing is more like, I'm going to vote against renewable energy, and it doesn't matter because my vote doesn't count, because I know that in the real world somebody will counter me, and they're going to be, because the Texas, they have these votes before the Texas legislature, and it looks like they're going to shut down solar or they're going to shut down wind.
Yep.
And in the end of the day, they don't shut down either.
Yeah.
And it's, I think maybe that's what they're depending on. Okay, we have an item from ABC News. This is, I think, the next to last item before on this show.
Yeah. So the headline here is the UN's highest court will decide on countries' climate obligations.
All right, countries here in my file that I provided, I see that it is countries, which is apostrophe S. It should have been S apostrophe. This applies to all countries. So the climate obligations of all countries were decided already. It's coming, and of course I had to put this up as something that was coming for this show because it's on the last day of the show. After years of lobbying by exposed island nations who fear they would disappear under rising seawaters, the United Nations General Assembly asked the International Court of Justice in 2023 for an advisory non-binding opinion. The opinion was expected today, July 23rd. That was actually yesterday, Wednesday. Now we know what the court decided, and the court ruled that cases involving one country suing another country for damages because of climate change will be heard in international courts. And they labeled climate change an existential threat and said that the countries of the earth have to work on it urgently. Now, I want to tell you, there is a legal term for ignoring something that is extremely dangerous, even though you're told that it's extremely dangerous. This is...
Nuisance?
No, it's not nuisance. It's it basically says that you're doing something horrible. In U.S. law, if you are told stop doing that because somebody can get hurt or die, and then you do it and it continues, there's a legal term I can't remember. Every time I think about this term, I just zone out on the word. But if you do it and somebody dies, you are guilty of murder.
Yeah.
This is not manslaughter. This is murder, and people are dying because countries are not applying their work to taking care of climate change. And the United States is actively going in the opposite direction.
Yes.
And I really think that it's an advisory ruling. It doesn't find anybody guilty, but these island nations, which are just, I mean, some of them, you look at an island and you see a road going down the middle of the island, and there's a house on one side and a house on the other side of the road, and the sea is up to the back door of both.
Yep.
What are they going to do?
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of it's now or never. I mean, it's now or never because
That's
you're going
right.
underwater.
Now, there's another reason to go to renewables, and that's what is in our last story.
Fantastic.
And this is a picture of renewable energy. This is from IRENA, which is the International Renewable Energy Agency, which is an agency of the United Nations. What does it say?
Well, this headline here is Renewables leading the way on cost.
Renewables are leading the way on cost in global power markets, with 91% of new clean energy projects now cheaper than fossil fuel alternatives. A report has revealed. An International Energy Agency report said renewables maintained their price advantage over fossil fuels. Why in the world would you not invest in renewables over fossil fuels when they are cheaper? And the batteries that will hold the power that you generate do it for such a low cost. And if you look at the material out of Lazard or IRENA or any of those places, you see that you want coal, it's going to cost you three times as much. You want nuclear, it's going to cost you 4 times as much. You want natural gas, it's going to cost you half again as much or twice as much. And I mean, if you look at that picture,
Yeah.
How complicated are those solar panels? How hard is it to replace a solar panel if one happens to get broken because the man in the moon threw a tantrum and you got hit by a meteorite? The turbine in the background, how hard is it to replace the turbine? You bring in a big crane and you lift up a big turbine. This is not rocket science. This is extremely simple compared to the other alternatives that we've got.
Well, it's extremely simple. Yes. Yes. There's so much I can say about this.
Well, we're at a point here where it's too late. We've got too much climate change already. Nevertheless, if we get active, we can have fun, really. And on that note, I'm going to put up our last picture, which says, have a thoroughly grand week. Bye-bye. Come back next time. Hope you enjoyed the show.